Hi, I'm Rachel Saruski, and if you want to learn more about Echo Theater and my play, please watch this video. I fell in love with theater because my brother has high functioning autism and his special interest was theater. And so we would put on like living room productions when I was younger, and he cast me in his production of The Lion King, and I played every other character. And so I was always doing shows when I was younger in my living room, and then later he joined like a community theater, and the head of the community theater was just like, oh, you should come by, like it might be really cool, like you might like it. And I was like really hesitant, and I was like, oh, I don't know, okay, fine. And the first production that I did was Grease, and I was cast as Jan, and for some reason from that moment I fell in love with theater and creating characters. And from then on, I felt like that was my creative outlet, especially because at the time I was like, I didn't really have any friends. I was like the weirdo at school. And so from then on, that was my life outlet, basically. So that is why I felt like I had to do theater. I've learned this a lot, especially with writing plays. Theater is so unique to me because if you want something to happen in a movie, you just write like, oh, confetti comes out of the sky and 1,000 dolls are crawling towards you. But to try to put that on a stage is so much more of a challenge. And when it does happen, I think it's so much more of a spectacle. And just the fact that theater is happening live right in front of you in a stage and, in real time, I feel like that's something that's so special that a lot of other art forms don't have. And like trying to create things for the stage is such a different process than creating things for, let's say, screen or TV or anything. It's just something that makes me fall in love with theater every time I write for it or I'm in a theater production. So I fell in love with writing probably around the same time that I fell in love with theater. I always considered myself some sort of a writer, but I never really knew where I fit into writing. Like I would write poems, I would write really bad songs, and I was like in fourth grade. And I always was really good at like writing essays for class and writing little skits and things. But when I didn't really get into like playwriting until I was in college, when something happened and all my classes got like mixed up, and all the room was full and I had to register for new classes, and one of the theater department heads was like, oh, what about playwriting? And I was like, oh, I'm not really interested in playwriting, but okay. And then I got put into this class where I had to write a play, and that was the play that I submitted to get into National Young Playwrights in Residence. And from there I realized I loved writing. I wrote about my family. This play that I'm having read for National Young Playwrights is also about my family. So I think it became more of an obsession when I was able to write about what I loved and incorporated that with theater and the theatrical aspects that you can put on stage and make something really unique. That's when my love for writing and playwriting really developed. I feel like playwriting is a unique format just because I always loved theater and I loved writing, but I never knew how to bring the two together until I started playwriting, and I realized like, oh, all these things that I like in pieces that I've watched and pieces that I've directed, I can write that myself and make that happen on stage, and kind of being, I guess, the mastermind of the whole thing, like creating a piece to be put on stage and writing words that people will say and that people will interpret into something every time that can be completely different, I think was something that really interested me. And especially working now with like getting readings and having other people interpret my work, especially directors, and how that projects on stage or on Zoom or wherever, I think is a really interesting process. So I really fell in love with writing something for the stage. And it's really great because I've always loved theater and I've always loved writing, but to bring the two together is like something that is like my life's purpose, I feel. And I really love that. Well, my brother's enthusiasm for the arts, I guess I've become kind of like a role model now, which is really weird because he's like my older brother. But he will be like, oh, I want to be a director, I want to be a writer just like Rachel. And like that kind of warms my heart a little bit, because it's like, he was my older brother. A lot of times I looked up to him, and for him to look up to me now and like, be so excited to know like what I'm doing, what I'm acting in, when I'm writing, what I'm directing, how he could watch it, how he could be a part of it. I think like, it's what keeps me going. The fact that he is there cheering me on and, is inspired by the work that I'm doing. I think that's like one of the best parts of it all. So my playwriting teacher would like send us opportunities for things that she thought we might be able to submit for. And she sent Echo Theater's Playwrights in Residence. And it was I had never heard of Echo Theater because I'm in the East Coast and Echo's on the West Coast. But she had sent that to me, and then they were like, oh, you should submit pieces that you feel confident about. And I was thinking, oh, I'm writing this play, but it's not finished, but I want to submit it. So I made it a goal of mine to finish writing my first play so I could submit it to Echo. And I was like, I don't know if this is good, but I'm just going to submit it. And then I got contacted for an interview, and I heard more from Andrew about what Young Playwrights and Echo was about. And I was hoping that whole week, waiting for that decision. I was like, please let me be a part of this. Please let me be a part of this. This seems like such a cool like group of people and theater company to be a part of. And the rest is history because now I'm here. So I loved like their mission and what they were going for with Young Playwrights, and like hearing other National Young Playwrights in the past talk about the program and how it's helped them was really inspiring to me. So my mentor is Kira Obolensky, and she has been incredible. I just basically would send every month I'd write about like chunks of my play, scattered as they may be, and she would take them and she'd be like, okay, this is good, expand on this. Like for some reason, whenever I write, even though I never really wrote for screen, apparently a lot of times my writing is very filmic. And she's like, okay, expand on this. This is theater. How can you show this on stage rather than telling us? And she was very open to all my ideas. I mean, I wrote basically an epic of a play. I wrote 130 pages, and I wrote a play on my grandfather's life story. And so, she was very open to the fact that I was like, this was the story that I need to get out on the page, no matter how long it is, no matter how long it takes, no matter how crazy it may seem. So I'm really thankful to her for really being open to that, and for, being, I guess, synced up with me and my vision and what I wanted to write. And she was very helpful in like helping me get that story out of my brain and onto the page. And just like, I'm really in love with the program because I've met all these really cool playwrights that are so extremely talented, and I've been to some of the readings already and they're incredible. And we're all kind of in the same place. We're all trying to spit out this play that came from our brains and was still there like up until like 6 months ago. And just like the attention that we get from Andrew and the theater company and like really bringing our plays to life and making them a reality is something that I've never experienced before. And maybe that's just because I'm young, or maybe it's because Echo's a unique theater company. I think that's a little bit of both. Just their enthusiasm for all of this was really inspiring, especially in writing my play. So my grandfather passed away about a year ago, and I was at school. I couldn't be at the funeral, but I was sent his eulogy. And in his eulogy was so much about his life that I had no idea happened, or what it, I felt like I knew him, but did I really know him? And so I only knew him for, the end of his life, or the 19 years that I was alive for. So I started, asking my mom questions and like reading this eulogy over and over again. And so I realized that his life story, he was born in Israel. He was born in Turkey. He was then sent to Israel to fight in the Israeli Independence War, then went to Cuba, escaped Castro's regime, and went to Puerto Rico. He met my grandmother in Cuba, had my mom and her sisters in Puerto Rico, and then they came to Miami. So I was like, that's like 5 different lives right there. And I did like the first draft of this piece was like a final project I had to do for a class. And my teacher was like, well, it's like he's lived 5 separate lives or 6 separate lives. I think that's something that, you should really highlight on. And, from then I was like, oh, this is the play that I need to write, and I have to tell the story. And I realized, I had this when I was writing previous plays, and when I was writing this play, I tend to write very long, drawn out plays that are more of like epics, or like just very long, that tell a whole story. And I had multiple people tell me like, oh, don't you think this is a little much? Like maybe you should split this into 2 plays. I'm like, no, I need to tell his whole life from beginning to end, because it doesn't have the same effect if it's 1 life as opposed to 5. So I felt like his story was something that really needed to be told, I guess, especially with like the timing of his death. And it was something that I had thought about writing in the past, but it wasn't until he died and I found out all these things about him that I didn't know about. And then I presented this opportunity of writing a new play that I felt like this is the story that I need to write. And no matter how long it takes or how much it can be read or not, I need to write this story. So what's being read for Echo is like an excerpt. 70 pages out of 130 pages of the story. But I still feel like a lot of it in its purpose still gets read and expressed. I want the audience to, I guess, get the essence of who my grandfather was, and the mesh of cultures and, the fight that he went through in his life. So um, I mean, not only on this side of the family, but on my dad's side as well, I'm Jewish Hispanic, and I think that's a very unique combination of cultures that a lot of people don't really know about or at all. So I feel like I want them to take that out, and I also want them to see, like, how much of a fighter he was and what he went through in his life to provide for my mom and her sisters and my grandmother, and in turn me, because I don't think that I would be the person that I was and that I am without him, in the way that he approached life, and his stubbornness, but his like love for life and giving other people what he thinks they deserve, which was, he always told my mom, like, you have to get married, but you have to have an education, and you have to be able to protect yourself and provide for yourself, and I don't want anyone ever taking advantage of you. And like, that was always in my mind from like things that he said. So I guess I just want people to take out, the spectacle that his life was, but how hard he worked and to get to where he was. I'm really looking forward to watching other people's readings, because I feel like we were supposed to go to LA, and then I would have really gotten to know everybody, and I would have gotten to see people's readings in the flesh. But like, because things are different, I feel like I've only talked to these people on Zoom, and not as long as I would like. But when you read a play, you really look into somebody's world, whether it's about their life or something they experienced or not. You always see a little bit of the writer. So I'm really interested in getting to know the other playwrights and their writing through their readings. And also, just, it's really surreal to see other people read your work. I went to the first rehearsal for my reading yesterday, and I've never had any of my work in a reading or perform. I mean, I've done like little skits for school here and there, but that's about it. So like, having real like adults and not students read my writing was a surreal experience. I feel like people should watch the 2-week festival and my play in particular, just because each playwright has so much to offer and is so different, but has such a talent that that it's so hard to find, I feel like, in young people. And we were all selected from a good pool of people. So I feel like, if we were selected from that pool of people, we have to be like pretty okay. I think, every playwright wrote such a completely different play from the other, but they all seem so interesting and so special and just so unique and unlike any other play I had heard about before. So I feel like, we all bring different talents and interests to the table that people will be interested in watching. Take the opportunity. If you are thinking about applying to Echo or just writing in general, do it. Get whatever's on your brain out on the page. Because I know when I first started writing, I was like, I don't like this. I don't think this is good. I hate reading my own writing. But like, doing things with Echo and just getting my work out on the page for my brain in general makes you feel good. It's like, even if it's not perfect the first time around, like really getting to develop a piece, with Echo or in general, and like see it come to life from your brain and from what it used to be to what it is in the end product. I think it's an experience that you can't really tell anyone about. You kind of just have to tell people to do it so they know what you're talking about, because it's really incredible to see an idea start as, like a little class assignment, how mine started, and then into this big thing that kind of has a life of its own. That's so special to me. And I mean, I feel like it's, unique to theater, but the whole process with Echo and just writing a play it's like the hardest thing I've ever had to do, but it's also the most rewarding thing I've ever had to do. Well, I feel like from what I've gathered about Echo, again, I'm not from LA, but it's a smaller theater that like really works with local and young and emerging playwrights. And if no one works with emerging playwrights, where are you going to get new plays from? Where are you going to get new ideas, new talent, etc.? So I feel like places like Echo are so important, because they give emerging artists and artists that maybe wouldn't have the opportunity to share their voice, a voice. And that's so important, because how are you going to have new theater makers if there's no one supporting the emerging ones and the ones that need the support and need development opportunities? And so that's why I think I'm so thankful to Echo for that, and so thankful to theaters like that in general, because they're the ones, even if they're not, you know, the bigger Broadway theaters, for example, they're the ones that are building the work of the future. I think that's so important. Everybody should come see it. I think, you know, no, every play is completely different, but not one that you would want to miss. You have to come see them all. I'm Rachel Saruski, and if you enjoyed this conversation about Echo Theater and my play, then feel free to go to the Echo Theater website to learn more.